Hi, so I am doing a pre-K lesson on living and non-living things. So the purpose of my lesson is for students to be able to categorize things as either living or non-living. My objectives are students will be able to identify the many different characteristics of living things. They will be able to identify the many different characteristics of non-living things. Students will be able to categorize things as either living or non-living. And students will be able to use their observation skills in determining whether or not an object is either living or non-living. So, in order to pre-assess their knowledge, I would first carry on a little discussion on what makes something either living or non-living and different examples of living and non-living things. First, I would have a little chart written on the board that has living written on one side and non-living written on the other side. In order to complete this chart, I would call on different students to give me examples of different characteristics that make up something that's living and not living. After we fill out the chart and we go over it and I make sure that all the students understand, we would then move on to the two circles drawn on the board that has one living and one non-living. In the circles, I would have students give me examples of living and non-living things, and I would draw to the best of my abilities those things. So, for example, pets, trees, flowers, non-living, rocks, books, and stuff like that. So then, in order to formally assess the students, I would have them all watch a living and non-living things YouTube video. Now, this video is just to have them further understand the material, because based on the pre-assessment, I want them to all kind of have a very good understanding of everything. And then after the video, they would answer some comprehension questions based on it. Then I would have the students break off into groups and participate in a living and non-living categorizing game. So, in order to summatively assess the students, I would have them all complete the living and non-living coloring review worksheet. I would then have the students turn to a partner and discuss what they have colored in, and then I would be monitoring them as they do so, and then collecting the worksheets afterward. So, I basically discussed every single thing I was going to do for the pre-assessment, the introduction to my whole lesson. For the body of my lesson, with the living and non-living group activity, I would have all groups sit around each other, and then they would all be given a bin, and in this bin would be two mats. On one mat it would say living, on the other mat it would say non-living, and also in the bin would be little objects. So maybe a book, plastic vegetables, plastic fruits, plastic foods, just basically anything that you could fit into a small bin that's appropriate for preschoolers. And then as a group, they will have to determine if those objects that are in the bin are either living or non-living. Now, after everyone is finished, we're going to go through all the groups and basically just see if they have everything categorized correctly. Now, the part that I kind of wanted to really focus on was the plastic foods, the plastic fruits, the plastic vegetables, plastic plants if you can find it. I kind of wanted to give things that would be a little bit trickier that they'd really have to think about and use their knowledge to determine whether or not it's living or non-living, because based on how you think about it, you can either take it as, well, this is a material flower, but if we're just looking at what the object is, it's a flower. So you can say that it's living, but then if you look at what it's made out of, it's non-living. So students would really have to grasp the material and really think it through, so that on some of those it would actually be correct both ways depending on how they actually figured out the answers, because it would be very hard to put plants in a bin and actually store it. So having plastic material made out of anything basically would be a lot smarter except for glass. Um, and then after we go through all the groups and everyone is finished, I would hand out the coloring review sheets where basically students would have to color in the pictures on the page that are living things. So there's going to be non-living things, but they're going to only have to color the things that are living. And then once they are finished, they're going to turn to a partner and discuss what they colored in, because there's going to be a couple different versions of the worksheet. That way they would have more to discuss and stuff like that. And then I would just be monitoring while they were doing so. And after they are all finished, I would collect the worksheets and the lesson would be over. So I personally think that this would be a very, very good lesson for preschoolers, just because it's not very complicated, but it's because it's a very broad topic. So, yeah.